You know, I mean, I wasn't a good student. You know, all through elementary school.
You made it through college though.
Yeah, I mean, but all through elementary school, I was struggling with that. I went to finally get into Washington Junior High School, you know, and getting with the wrong crowd and getting left back and having to go to 7th grade again. You know, I ended up being in 7th grade again with some incoming 6th graders. You know, and I was now the biggest guy in the, you know, in that class. And
peer pressure?
Yeah, it was peer pressure, but you know, I mean, I could have been dealing with a number of issues from what was happening in my home, you know, but the boys club, you know, that was my stability. My mom and the boys club and my brothers and my sister was the stability. And I had to go through that experience, 7th grade. And when I was, you know, in the 7th grade and I was playing in the gym, and Al McGuire, you know, the varsity coach, was our gym teacher.
Is that
Mr.
right?
Cy Rosedeicher.
Okay.
And Al McGuire came from Marquette University, was recruiting Earl Tatum.
Correct.
And I'm in the gym and I have no idea, you know, who this guy is. And I'm playing in the gym. And so he asked the gym teacher if he could speak to me. And he comes over, the gym teacher brings me over and he says to me, "Hey, young man, you have a lot of physical skills." And he said, "If you do well in school and you keep improving as a basketball player, I'm gonna come back and give you a scholarship."
Wow.
Now, I don't know what a scholarship is now, so I don't know what he's talking about. I have no idea, because at that time, nobody was really talking about going to college, you know, and nobody I knew, you know.
Had gone.
You know, yeah, I knew Gus. I didn't know what that meant when Gus went on to college, you know. But, and I said, "Coach," I'm like, "What did he say? College? What does that mean?" That's when you finish high school and you play college, and you play college ball. You get an education, and if you have the potential, you go to the NBA. Because that was my lifelong dream since sixth grade. I wanted to play for the Knicks. I wanted to get to the NBA, and I started thinking about that. But the one key point was that he said, "If you do well in school," I started to think about that.
That resonated.
Oh yeah, and I went back to Mr. Jones, and I knew I wasn't doing all that great, and the club was trying to help me. And he said something very significant to me. He said, "If I call you at 6 o'clock in the morning to come play basketball, you will come." You know, and I said, "But if I call you at 6 o'clock in the morning to read or to do your homework, you won't come." You know, and he said, "You have to be able to, if you want basketball that way, the same approach that you are taking to be a great basketball player is the same approach you have to take to be a great student." I did better. I got out of 7th grade. I went to 8th grade, and I don't know. You know, God works in mysterious ways. I happened to be, you know, in Nichols in the 8th grade, and I'm speaking to my counselor, and I told him how uncomfortable I felt, and I asked him if there was a possibility. Any way of getting, you know, back to my, you know, original grade. And he said something to me. He said, "Well, if you can maintain a B average for 3 marking periods, there's a new program that will allow you to go to the 9th grade." And I was like, wow. I started thinking about, well, I have never really worked hard or focused like that. And so it made me start to focus on, you know, education and the thought process of it. And then Mr. Jones, you know, what I was weak in, you know, through the Boys Club, he got me a tutor. I mean, there were teachers. In my case, it was Teddy Weiland. Miss Weiland passed away, you know, sometime after I left high school. Big basketball fan, and her husband was a biology teacher, and they used to come and tutor kids in the club. A lot of teachers did. I go through 9th grade, and I end up getting a B average, you know, through 9th grade. And then when Mr. Jones goes in with me to see my counselor, And then my counselor, he's pulling out all these things, because I would happen to be a pretty good artist. You know, I could draw really well. And so he pulled out all these things about art and, you know, automotives and things I could do with my hand. And Mr. Jones said, well, he's going to college. I didn't know there were levels in high school. You know, I was a level 5. In order to be a college student, you had to be level 3 and up. And I was a level 5 student. And basically the courses I took in 9th grade was the work I should have known already.
Okay.
You know,
So
probably
remedial work. Sure.
Yeah, just redoing 7th and 8th grade or elementary school. So, you know, now I'm really, you know, I'm feeling bad, and you know, we've made a decision in the office. I said, you know, what can he do, you know, in order to change that? So I spent my end of my 9th grade year and my whole 10th grade year in what I consider a remedial. You know, I took my study halls and some of my lunch period, and I went to this program that I didn't even know. It had a media center in here, and a lady who tutored you in the remedial skills. So what I learned in the process was that it wasn't that I couldn't read, right?
That you didn't know
that
how.
I didn't know how, plus I didn't think I could.
Okay.
So when I started to go through the process and I started to improve my reading skills, which ultimately improved my writing skills.
That was everything. So in other words,
yeah.
once the confidence came, the comprehension followed.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then
definitely.
once the comprehension followed
Yeah.
in the reading, you were able to have the aptitude to understand everything else.
Oh yeah, I mean, life around me became, once I solidified my academics, I mean, it was no holds barred on the court. I mean, I didn't have to worry about whether, I didn't have to worry about if I was gonna pass a test, if I was gonna pass a grade, if I was gonna be eligible. I mean, absolutely, I felt like that I was invincible on the court.
This is the first time I've heard an athlete that happens to be a college graduate, that happens to be a former NBA player, that happens to be the director of a boys club, assimilate athletics, academics, and freedom. And I want you to say that again, because it sounded to me, and I want to make sure I don't get this wrong for the youth of today that may be watching this. It sounded to me that you said, I was academically challenged. I found and realized through a slap in the face that I wasn't where I needed to be. And through the good fortune of the boys club and someone that decided to help mentor, you were able to be put on the right path. Nobody handed you anything.
Right.
I heard I had to work. I heard I had to study. I heard I gave up lunch periods, study halls. So there were some things you had to do. Nobody's giving you the handout, but even in that process, you still had to figure out a way to make it. Is your spiritual life growing with the basketball techniques and skills? Are they growing together? Or is one idling in the background of the other? Tell me about that relationship.
I was on balance. I was, you know, Mr. Jones used to always say, you know, once he got into the church, he said we're composed of 3 people. You know, our mind, our spirit, mind, and body. And he said if you would have, you know, he used to always use the analogy, you see your physical body. And you know, I was physically, you know, strong. And he said, now when you pull out, if you were to pull out your mental side, because he always taught skull sessions in the mental side. He said the game of basketball, after you're in shape, is 99.9% mental. You know, you win or lose on the court, not with your physical ability, but what's in your head. And he said, well, if you were to pull out your mental self and it was in the same form of your body, it would probably be malnourished. So,
wow.
So because you didn't get what you need to get academically, you know? And he said, definitely, if you were to pull out your spirit man, you know, he will be malnourished. He will be skinny. And so you have to have that balance between spirit, mind, and body. And so you start to grow in that, you know? So my sophomore year, you know, I averaged about 18 points. We won the county championship. I mean, and going into the next year, I had matured, you know, as a man of God.